everyone, it's Robert Niles from Theme Park Insider, and I'd like to welcome you back to Social Distancing Kitchen, where we bring you the theme park magic by showing you how to make some of your favorite theme park food at home while the parks are closed. Today we're headed back to the Walt Disney World Resort for another one of readers' favorites. This time we're heading over to Epcot and Le Cellier for their famous Canadian cheddar cheese soup. So we've got all of our ingredients prepared here, mise en place, like we do every time. I'm a big advocate of handling your ingredients that way. Basically what it means is that you're collecting all of your ingredients and prepping them so you know you've got everything before you start. Because the last thing you want to do is be making cheddar cheese soup and realize, I have no cheddar cheese. So everything's prepped out here. I'm actually making a half batch from the official Disney recipe, which you can see below you if you are looking on YouTube, or it's right below you in the article if you're watching this on themeparkinsider.com. We are starting with bacon here. So if you think, oh, cheddar cheese soup, that must be vegetarian. No. We're starting with bacon. We've got some onion, some celery, some butter, flour, chicken stock, milk, and then the star of the show, the cheddar cheese. And then we've got some finishes that we put into it, just a little bit of beer, some hot sauce. It calls for Tabasco, but I've got a nice Canadian hot sauce right here. We've got some Worcestershire, salt, pepper, and then just some green onions to finish off with the garnish. So what we're going to do is we're going to put this all in the Dutch oven that we've got behind us on the burner here, and get this thing going. It's going to take probably about 45 minutes from start to finish. We're not going to make you watch the whole thing here, but we'll cover every step along the way. So join me back over on the burner, and we're going to get started with Epcot's famous Canadian cheddar cheese soup. We're starting here with some bacon we're going to put in. It's called cheddar cheese soup, but in reality, cheddar cheese is, spoiler alert, pretty much the last thing that we put into this soup. The heart of it really is bacon, and we're going to get started with that. And this is, I think, one of the reasons why people like this so much is because people love bacon. So we're going to dump our bacon into the Dutch oven there that we've got, warmed up a little bit, and we're going to be browning this for about 5 minutes or so. So I'm just going to get that heat up a little bit so we can get this cooked. So I'm just going to leave that there to render for a minute while I tell you a little bit more about Epcot's Canadian cheddar cheese soup. Now, this is officially listed as from the steakhouse in the Canada Pavilion at Epcot, Le Cellier. But in reality, I think more people eat this at the Epcot International Food and Wine Festival these days, because they've got it out there on the street that you can pick this up, and they've got a really nice filet mignon out there too. I know a lot of people, the first place they go in food and wine is to go get the filet mignon and the cheddar cheese soup. So this has really become a fan favorite thanks to that festival. Epcot has just become festival central in previous years. Yeah, I know we're all kind of not getting our flower and garden fix right now, but again, if you want to get that cheddar cheese soup, we're going to have it for you here in just a little bit. So that bacon is sizzling up right now. I'm going to keep moving it around so it doesn't stick to the bottom of the Dutch oven, because what's happening really is we put this straight into the pan. There wasn't anything in there. The bacon fat that's rendering off of this, that's going to be kind of our cooking medium for the soup as we move on before we start putting in the broth and the milk and everything else. So we really do need a good 5 minutes to get this down so that we've got some fat rendered, so we've got that cooking medium for the celery, for the onions, for the things we're going to be putting in there, for that flour that eventually is going to be forming basically a roux that's going to be the heart of our soup there. So I tell you what, I'm going to keep attending to this, and we'll be back in just a minute or so and move on to the next step of Epcot's Canadian cheddar cheese soup. Okay, we've got that bacon kind of lightly brown now. We don't want it cooked all the way because that's going to be in there a while. We don't want it all burned. So now I'm going to add our next ingredients, which are our onions. Put those in there. Celery. Notice I've got a fairly rough chop on all of that. And then some butter. And that's going to sizzle up really nicely now as that butter melts into the bacon fat. And see why people like this dish. We're talking cheese, we're talking butter, we're talking bacon fat. All of the things that are probably horrible for us, but at the same time really, really tasty. So, it's theme park food. We don't eat this every day. That's why we only do 2 or 3 episodes a week. Anyway, so this is going to take about 5 minutes because we're going to wait for those onions to begin to soften before we move on to our next step. But it is really beginning to smell nice here in the social distancing kitchen. Fortunately, smells do go farther than 6 feet, so you don't have to be the only one here in order to smell this, but you actually do have to be here, so sorry. But we'll check you back in just a couple minutes while we move on to our next step. Okay, we are getting this out of the official Delicious Disney cookbook, which came out a few years ago. So this is Disney's official recipe for this particular dish, and there are plenty more in here. We'll have the link in the article, as we've always had. But in terms of sizes we're going here, we've got a ½ pound of bacon in there, a medium red onion, 3 celery ribs, and 4 tablespoons of butter. Now, it might not have looked like that because I'm having the recipe. This serves 10 as it's written in the book here. And, well, we don't have that many people here in the social isolation kitchen these days, so I don't want to waste any food. So we're going with half recipe on this one, just serving about 5 servings on this. But we're getting nice and warm right now, so it is time for me to put in our flour. And that flour is going to, this is basically a roux that we're making at this point. Technique that's used in a lot of soups and stews, where you've got flour and fat mixed together. You're warming it up, and you want to get it kind of dark here because, color is flavor, as they say. So we're giving it about 4 minutes here that I'm going to be whisking this up. And of course, I've got the Mickey whisk because I'm staying on theme here. But we've got that bubbling up nicely. I'm at about medium heat at this point, and we're going to go about 4 minutes on this, like I say, to get to our next step, which I believe is going to be our chicken stock, and then that's going to simmer for a while. So, tell you what, just let me stir away here, and we'll be back in a moment to head up our next step. Okay, we're ready to add our chicken stock right now. Recipe calls for 3 cups. I'm going 1.5 cups again because I'm having this. And then we're going to put it straight in here. I'm going to keep whisking while I've got it in there. And I'm going to be bringing this to a boil in about a minute here. And I'm going to get this, I want to really nicely incorporate that roux with the whole sauce so you can really see that thickening up. And then I'm going to let that reduce heat to simmer and let that go for just a little bit. Next we're going to add our milk. Calls for 4 cups of milk. We got 2 right here. Putting this in, I'm going to whisk it in, and then we're going to let this simmer for a little bit. Calls for 15 minutes. Since we're having it, it's going a little quicker. We do not want to let this boil. That's the really important thing at this step. I want to get it nicely incorporated. I want it a little thin because we're going to be putting in a lot of cheese here once it's done. This is a good point where if you need to thin it, you could add a little bit more milk if you don't feel like the consistency is quite right. But it's really important not to boil it because we don't want to scald it at this point. That's going to give it a really bad burnt taste. So, a nice simmer is okay here as we're trying to get everything to get all the flavors to kind of blend together, meld together. But we definitely don't want anything boiling right here. So, like I said, recipe calls for about 15 minutes. I'm going to watch it because we've got a smaller volume here and see when it's ready. And then we're going to put in our star of the show, the Canadian cheddar cheese, and the rest of our finishers just to round out the flavors of this Epcot classic. See you in a few. Okay, we are bringing our soup off the heat right now. I've got a trivet down there so that we're not straight onto the table. And now we're going to add the star of our show. In goes a pound, actually this is a ½ pound, but grated nicely, of white cheddar. And we're going to stir that in until our soup is smooth. Then we're going to start putting in, this is all on residual heat right now, then we're going to put in some of our additional flavors. I'm going to go with some Worcestershire. It's calling for a teaspoon. I'm putting in about half. We're putting in some hot sauce. The recipe actually calls for Tabasco, but we found this nice Canadian hot sauce here. We're going to go for a little bit of that in there. Let's see if I can get some out. Oh, helps if I take the cap off, doesn't it? There we go. Get that in there. Stir that in. It's going to give us just a little bit extra kick of flavor with that. Going to give me a little shake of coarse salt on there. A few twists of pepper. And I have a 1/4 cup, recipe calls for half, remember, we're having the recipe, of ale. They call for a Canadian ale. I couldn't get any, so we've got Colorado, I believe. But then that's getting us to our final step. And now what we have here, ta-da, is Epcot's famous cheddar cheese soup. I'm going to give that a little taste here. It's still a little warm. See if we need to round out any flavors. Honestly, I'm going to scrape the rest of this cheese into there because I want all of that. Let that melt in there. And then we are ready to serve. Got some bowls right here. I will ladle up some of our soup. Right here. And I've got a little bit of green onion or scallion here just to garnish on the top. And we have some more theme park magic for you here on Social Distancing Kitchen. It's Epcot's cheddar cheese soup from the Walt Disney World Resort. Theme park magic right at home, even when the parks are closed. So, for Theme Park Insider, I'm Robert Niles. Thanks for watching. Please keep subscribing to us on our YouTube channel, following us on all of our social media, visiting us on the website, and we will keep these recipes coming just so long as you need some theme park magic at home. So, thanks for watching.